If you want to get a court order to do that, why don't you do that, Mr. Gibbs? And I'll be happy if there's sanctions involved to cover your sanctions, okay? But I do not think, without a judgment in place, you're entitled to get into information relative to his assets.
Okay. So if I'm...
Okay.
I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
So you're instructing him not to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, have you ever been the party to a lawsuit in the past?
I have.
Okay. Do you know how many lawsuits you've been a party to?
I have no idea.
Have you ever been sued based on a claim that someone has you violated someone's civil rights?
Not that I know of.
Do you know if you've been sued based on a claim that you violated somebody's constitutional rights other than in this case?
You know, over the years, all the companies I've owned, I can't really give you an answer. I mean, it's possible. I just don't think so. But anything's possible.
Okay. Of those lawsuits that you have been involved in, have any of those lawsuits gone to trial?
Yes.
Okay. And can you identify which lawsuits went to trial?
No, I can't.
Have any of those lawsuits resulted in a verdict against you?
Are you talking about him individually?
Well, that question would be you individually, if you know.
I don't think so.
Okay. How about against a company that you own?
If you know or can remember.
I really can't answer that. I don't know. And it could happen, and I wouldn't even know about it.
How could it happen and you wouldn't know about it?
It's very, very easily. When you have corporations, there's always lawsuits. You're suing people. I'm not involved in every one of them. I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations, so I would have no knowledge of it.
It'd be fair to say you would know if a judgment was entered against you personally, as opposed to your company.
Well, how many years ago are we talking about?
As far back as we can go.
The only thing I can say to you, Mr. Gibbs, is very possible. I don't think so, but anything's possible.
And what you're saying is you just don't recall.
No.
Do you have records that you could look at that would allow you to recall those things?
I would, but I wouldn't know where to start looking.
Okay. Do you have people that work for the companies that you own that would have access to those records?
Well, we do, but we've owned a lot of companies that sold them. We don't have the records, It's, but me personally, I don't think it ever happened. But anything could happen.
Okay. Mayor, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
I have.
Okay. In on one occasion or more than one occasion?
Probably more than one occasion.
Okay. Can you, for me, identify what the name of the crime or crimes were that you were
It's been 40 years ago. I don't even recall what it was.
40 years ago?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay. Do you recall what the circumstances were in terms
Objection relevancy. This is not, if it's over 40 years ago, you can't use it for any purpose.
Actually, under Rule 609 of the Federal Rules of Evidence, you can use it.
How far back can you go?
Go back 10 years or more, depending. It's in the discretion of the judge, and the judge will weigh whether or not it has relevance in terms of the time frame.
Does it have to do with false swearing?
I'll read it to you.
Okay.
Evidence that a witness other than an accused has been convicted of a crime shall be admitted if the crime was punishable by death or imprisonment in excess of 1 year under the law in which the witness was convicted. And evidence that an accused has been convicted of such a crime shall be admitted if the court determines the probative value of admitting the evidence outweighs the prejudicial effect. Evidence that any witness has been convicted of a crime shall be admitted if it involves dishonesty or false statement regardless of punishment. Time limit. Evidence of a conviction under this rule is not admissible if a period of more than 10 years has elapsed since the date of the conviction or the release of the witness from the confinement imposed for that conviction, whichever is the later date, unless the court determines, in the interests of justice, that the probative value of the conviction, supported by specific facts and circumstances, substantially outweighs its prejudicial effect. However, evidence of a conviction more than 10 years old, as calculated herein, is not admissible unless the proponent gives the adverse party sufficient advance written notice of intent to use such evidence to provide the adverse party with a fair opportunity to contest the use of such evidence. And I'm telling you right now that we intend to use it if it's relevant, but I have to find out about it.
Those
okay?
were all conjunctive, so they have to be, it has to be a crime involving dishonesty.
No. The dishonesty or false statement could be a 90-day misdemeanor. The time for the conviction doesn't matter.
Well,
That was what that really
okay.
was. So that's why I'm going into it, and I'm putting you on notice that that's what we may intend to
Okay.
but I need to find out.
Right.
Do you recall, Mayor, what the circumstances?
I don't recall, like my answer said, I don't recall.
You don't remember what you were charged with?
No, sir, my answer is, I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember the name of the police department that charged you?
No, I don't.
Were you living in Michigan when you were charged?
I was.
Were you living in the city of Flint when you were charged?
Yes, I think so.
Where were you employed when you were charged?
Sir,
Yes,
it's been 40 years ago, I don't know.
And you don't have any recollection?
Sir, please, listen to me real close. No. If I tell you I don't know, don't ask me again.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any recollection of what the events were that gave rise to the charge?
I don't recall.
Was the conviction disturbing to you?
I don't recall that either, sir.
Really? You don't remember if you were upset
It's
about
40-some years ago. I don't recall it.
it? Did you go into a courtroom as a result of the charge?
I think I did, yes.
Do you remember if you did any time in jail or prison?
I sure do.
Okay. And
I remember that part.
And what do you remember about that?
I was sentenced to, I don't know, a certain length of time in prison. I do remember that.
Okay. So you remember being placed in prison for a specific sentence.
That is correct.
Do you remember what prison you were placed in?
I was in Milan, Michigan.
Okay. Have you ever filed bankruptcy?
No,
You never filed for bankruptcy?
no.
Have you ever filed any papers in a bankruptcy action?
Me personally?
You
Could I
personally?
have a showing of relevance at this point? I don't understand what possible relevance to this lawsuit involving your client being stopped in the elevator has to do with whether or not the mayor has ever filed bankruptcy. Can you tell me what Mr.
Yeah, it's
Gibbs
my
has?
understanding that he was convicted of bankruptcy fraud, or for making a false statement to a bankruptcy court, so that's why I think it's relevant.
Over 40 years ago.
Yeah, if somebody files a document that's false with the court, I think it's very relevant. And I don't
To
think
what?
the time.
To what? His
To
credibility?
credibility,